A couple of birds there. Steve Melewski joins us now from MASNsports.com. Nobody, folks, follows the minor leagues better than Steve. And a little bit of concern earlier this week when Hunter Harvey was shut down at Delmarva with an elbow issue. And whenever you hear, elbow issue, teenage pitcher, you think the worst. What's the latest on Hunter? And is there surgery in the future?
Well, Jim, right now there is not surgery planned for Hunter Harvey. That's the good news. I talked to Hunter a couple days ago, and he's very upbeat about what's going on now. He has a flexor mass muscle strain, and we do know that there are instances where it's been diagnosed as this, and it's led to surgery. But Hunter told me the good news was it was not my UCL. Nothing was torn. It could have been worse. Luckily, it wasn't. He said there should be no surgery. That's what the doctors have told him. He's very much in rest mode right now. He's not going to pick up a ball for a while, but what a season he's had. You see the great stats here. I think the Orioles are delighted with this kid, 19 years old, made nice gains with the changeup this year, and had a really good year. When they hand out those top 100 prospect lists next year, he will be high up the list.
Yeah, and I think to keep it in perspective, when we say he's shut down for the season, the minor league season ends Labor Day weekend, so really he's missing just over a month, so it's not as elaborate as it seems. So yeah, he's shut down for the year, but really he's probably missing about 4 or 5 starts. Now, this is the time of year where you start to look in the minor leagues, what prospects have emerged, what guys are knocking on the door, and there are 3 that really have made strides this year, and certainly they're on the radar.
No doubt about it. And, you know, one thing interesting about the Oriole top prospects list, when Baseball America released its list last December, 6 of the top 8 and 7 of the top 11 were pitchers. Very pitcher-heavy organization in the minors. But I think we're seeing a little bit of a transition year, as you said, Jim. Some guys are really putting up some numbers, hitters at the minor league level. And these 3 have been great. You can add Yastrzemski, Alvarez, Walker to this list. But Chance Sisco, what he's doing at Delmarva, 19-year-old catcher, he's leading the league in hitting. He really, a great approach to hitting, uses the whole field. He hits foul line to foul line. They say he's got a very controlled swing for a young kid. Excellent 2-strike approach, and he's also making progress with his defense at catcher. Drew Dosh, 7th-round draft pick last year out of Youngstown State. Brian Graham, head of player development, told me he may have the best approach of any hitter in the Oriole minors. Really gets a good pitch to hit, knows the strike zone well. Very intelligent player. Was a 4.0 at Youngstown State. This is a smart kid. And Glenn Davis, Baltimore kid, really doing well since promoted to Bowie, hitting .410 in the last 11 games when they moved him up to Bowie. Now, he's just 21 years old. He's still filling out in his body. He's a kid with a lot of speed. Some of the most speed in the organization. Glenn is right up there. And some of the pop is starting to come. And so a kid that was not drafted out of Catonsville Community College that the Orioles knew about and signed, a local product, is doing real well.
What's a 4.0?
I don't know. Drew Dosh does, though.
I surely know nothing about a 4.0 now. I think one player who without a doubt has emerged and at this point has to be in the thought process for next year is Christian Walker. He dominated at AA and now he's at AAA. This is a young man who is beyond on the radar. He's knocking on the door.
Oh, he is, and you know, the power has come this year. That's been the exciting thing for the Orioles to see. They've always felt that Christian Walker is a good hitter. Again, he's another guy that can use the whole field. He has some pop to all fields, but this year he's really learned about himself as a hitter. He's learned when he can try to drive the ball, and 20-plus home runs between a couple levels. Continuing to do well, Jim, at AAA after they moved him to Norfolk.
All right, but the key is with any prospect coming along, and you like to see a kid that the Orioles drafted doing so well, what about the defense? These guys coming up, you will not play on a Buck Showalter team unless you can hold your own defensively.
And he is making improvements here. He's making improvements with his footwork. He's said now to be in the solid average range. And the one thing I like about Walker in the defense, Jim, he told me earlier this year, I know my bat is what will get me to the major leagues, but I'm not going to allow my defense to keep that from happening. In other words, he got the message that this organization is built on defense, and you better have a decent glove when you get to Baltimore. And so he has put in the time, the work to do that. And while we're all noticing his great offense, Christian Walker knows his defense better be there too, or that will negate some of the great numbers he's put up.
You know, one aspect that has emerged this year with the minor leagues is not only depth in the system, but the quality quality of the depth. And we saw it the other day. The Orioles traded Eduardo Rodriguez, who not that long ago was an untouchable, because they were able to get Andrew Miller, excuse me, and they're able to trade him because of all the depth up and down the system and the pitchers.
And it's interesting, Eduardo Rodriguez is making his first start today for AA Portland in the Boston organization. And I don't think the Orioles soured on him, as some people have said to me this week, Jim. I think he didn't have quite a year this year as last year, but he was sought after by teams. And as Dan Duquette said when they announced that trade, this is what was required. It was a high price for Miller. He was sought after by a lot of people. And this is another way you make your farm system work for you. You trade to get pieces that can help you. And so if Eduardo Rodriguez never helps the Orioles, but Andrew Miller does, and he already has, you're having your farm system work for you as well. And for instance, they once traded a guy they drafted named Eric Bedard.
Who?
And that worked out pretty well, that deal for the Orioles, too.
All right, Steve Melewski, follow him at MASNsports.com and on Twitter at MASNSteve. Nobody knows more about the minor leagues than Steve Melewski.